Hawaii. Home to her. Him. This guy. Dan. But not the wreck of the USS Arizona. But one thing it does have is many miles of beautiful, winding, scenic roads. But we're not going to see any of those today, as I tend to drive from one side of Oahu to the other without using a single road. Here are the rules. I'm not allowed to drive on any roads where civilian traffic spawns in and drives. Places I am allowed to drive include, obviously off-roading, going through jungles, farmland, beaches, things like that, dirt tracks and paths. In urban environments, I'm going to have to use alleyways, malls, plazas and parking lots, and I'm also allowed to drive on racing tracks, and through the festival ground. The Crew Motorfest contains many off-roading vehicles, but I decided beelining it from one end of the map to the other would be far too easy, so I've opted for a much cooler vehicle. Say hello to the gorgeous Volkswagen Combi 21 camper van. In my opinion, one of the coolest cars ever made. I can't help but smile every time I see one of these driving around, and it would certainly make the challenge interesting, especially as this is one of the slowest cars in the game, and I've not upgraded it either. For the first time in the series, I've also set a time limit. My starting point is the beacon at Kaina Point, and the finishing line is the lighthouse down at Makapu'u Point. Yep, I'm sure I'm butchering those names. My challenge would start as soon as the sun blooms over the island to the north, and I have to make it all the way across the island before the lighthouse illuminates. This would roughly give me about half an hour. In an off-road buggy, easy peasy. In a vintage bus, maybe not so much. Let's see how I get on. Well, that was all very dramatic, but where the fuck am I going? Beelining it straight across the mountains was never really an option. Volkswagen likes hills as much as the YouTube algorithm liked my previous video in this series, which wasn't very much. Seriously, you should go get that watch, it's a banger. I was gonna have to stick to the flat ground. I could follow the beaches on the west coast, heading south, but this wouldn't get me very far. Unfortunately, unlike the one in the Wild Thornberries, this Combi doesn't float. That left me with one option, heading east, driving on the beaches of the north coast. This would take me through the ship graveyard, past the resort, and then eventually lead me towards the central farmlands, where I could sight heading south. It was a fine plan, but right from the start, the camper was showing me how much of a challenge this was going to be. The old girl did not like sand, and who could blame her? It's coarse, rough, irritating, and it gets everywhere. And also it's a real bitch to get grip on in these tyres. I was sliding around all over the place. The camper's acceleration also left a lot to be desired as well. But this is supposed to be a challenge, so I've got to use this vehicle best I can. The first leg of our journey should be pretty straightforward. I just stay on the beaches, heading east. To start with, there are these tyre tracks I can follow. I just need to avoid crashing into any rocks or palm trees. As we bathe in the pink glow of the morning sunlight, you can really appreciate how pretty this map is. It feels so tropical and gorgeous. It really makes me want to fly halfway around the world and visit Hawaii myself. After a long slog along the beach, we come across the first point of interest, a ship graveyard. Who knows how all these wrecks got here? Maybe it was a tsunami. Maybe a bunch of mad lad captains went on a mad one and wrecked themselves here after a long night's drinking. Who knows? That beeping noise you can hear isn't a submarine. It's treasure! This game has multiple challenges and things you can find around the map, one of which is these loot drops you can find. The closer you are, the more it beeps. But we don't have time for that right now. We've got a challenge to complete. And of course, let's not forget the time limit. I found myself a nice path, literally through the shipwrecks. One of the wrecks blocks the entire beach up ahead, so I'm going to have to use my nitro for this one. I'm going to say my nitro is for emergency uses only. Even with the boost, the bus only just makes the jump. Without it, I would have been the vintage automotive meat in a very rusty ship sandwich. I was through the ship graveyard, and the tyre tracks I'd been following had stopped. We're about to give this bus a true off-road challenge, as a river sits ahead of us with no bridge to cross it. We're going to have to do a spot of wading. Luckily, the river is nice and shallow, and the Smitty crosses it no problem. I'm now on Mokulia Beach, right next to Waialu Bay. Who names these things? Oh right, those are the Polynesians, of course. I now have to make my way through a beach resort, and I decided to literally go through it. This game doesn't contain any pedestrian NPCs, which is probably a good thing, because I would have pissed off a lot of sunbathers and surfers doing this. I have to admit, this was a lot of fun. I do love smashing stuff up. I was also very impressed with the game's volleyball net physics. A lot of games don't bother doing this. Either it's a solid object you can't smash through, or it's just a rigid object that falls to the ground. So fair play to Ivory Tower for this little detail. It makes my wanton destruction very immersive. Well, this is all jolly good fun. I'm still heading in the wrong direction. I need to start heading south, but there are still major cliffs acting as a barrier. I won't be able to head south until I've reached the farmlands. But we're getting there, slowly. The next thing I passed is a crashed passenger airplane. I really hope the FAA know about this one. I always find crashed passenger jets on tropical islands very triggering. It makes me assume it's an Easter egg for the TV show Lost. In the early 2010s, it felt like every game was putting in a lost Easter egg. Crashed planes, mysterious hatches, smoke monsters, they were popping up all over the place. And it felt like Lost was the first ever TV show any game developer had ever watched. After driving on sand for what felt like an eternity, the V-dub finally got a taste of tarmac, and it ate it up. I found a new lease on life and reached a top speed faster than I had before. I don't know what the top speed of one of these things is in real life. The internet isn't very clear, but I feel like it's not as fast as this. This brick was flying on this narrow path, and I had to be careful not to go flying off into the undergrowth. I'd reached my first proper point of civilization, the small coastal town of Halewa, but we wouldn't be staying here for very long. The van took another quick dip, crossed the road, and then drove through a small park. The farms are just up ahead, past these houses. I drove through the back alleys of the suburb, and then crossed the main road, passing a couple of other players on motorbikes. Unlike the previous two games in the series, if you come across another player, you clip straight through them. I guess some people got pissed off over the players ramming into them constantly. I mean, yeah, it could get annoying, but at least it didn't make you feel like you were alone. Hi guys! Future Pedro here. Turns out past Pedro is wrong and lied to you. I have since learned the drivers I just passed are racing ghosts, and you can indeed bump into, literally, other players in the map. They are few and far between though, but you can identify them by their game tags, the fact that they appear on your map. So it is still possible to go around annoying people. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, here we are. We've reached the central farmland. We start heading south, using tracks, fields and farms. Turns out it's not just sand the microbus doesn't like, it's also mud. And who could blame it? It's moist, it's gritty, it's irritating, and it gets everywhere. I find myself in the grounds of a high school, so I had a little go around the athletics track. It would have been rude not to. But I couldn't find much grip on here either, so I headed for the concrete pathways instead. This would be the last solid ground I'd see for a while, as after a sharp turn and crossing over the baseball field, there is now a long stretch of farmland between me and my next destination. It's going to be sliding and it's going to be muddy. The ground here was really uneven. I was wrestling with this brick of a vehicle to try and keep it under control. I really hated this uneven terrain, but on the plus side, I knew sunflowers lovely. I smashed through a white picket fence. I found myself on a more smooth track. I'm so jealous of these civilian cars right now. They have such an easy life driving on that tarmac. I passed through another farm. Hey, nice tractor by the way, and tried to take the most direct route south I could. Dirt tracks criss and cross all over this part of the map, so I really was spoiled for choice. I was heading straight towards a solid brick wall. Okay, not so solid brick wall. Turns out they don't use mortar in their brick walls around here. After passing some trees and more farmland, I could see a big inflatable yellow shark ahead of me. This was the next viewpoint I needed to head towards, where I could think about where I needed to head next. Okay, let's regroup for a second. I'm currently here, just above the town of Wahiawa. To the east, mountains. To the west, more mountains, so I have to keep heading south. I was going to have to cross the shallow river and then navigate through Wahiawa, sticking to the alleyways and parking lots of course. I'll then either end up in the army barracks or the golf course. And then after that, more farmland. I just need to keep heading south and make my way towards Honolulu. Okay, we have a plan. South it is. Let's go to this farm and find that river. Purple Balloon is in the town, so I'll just head towards that. The river here is nice and shallow, so no need to worry about finding a bridge. I can drive straight through it. I don't know what the wading depth of a real camper van is, but this looks very sketchy. But hey, this is an arcade racer, let's just go with it. After crossing the river, I found a dirt track to follow. This hugs the very edge of the town, just past the suburbs, so I decided to stay on it for a while and try and find a path through the town. I took a hard left, following another path, driving straight through the suburbs. There's lots of nice wide open spaces in between the houses, so I could easily smash through these walls and just drive through their gardens. I passed some more players going about their day, and smashed through some gates into a compound. The layout of this town is nice and open. Finding a way through in between the buildings should be nice and easy. I then pass an ice cream store and drive through the drive-thru of a burger restaurant. We've got no time for brunch. We're not stopping at this cafe either, but I couldn't help but wreck more stuff. It was nice to be on tarmac again after driving through all that mud. I felt like I had full control of the vehicle again. I could do some precise driving, making my way through thin gaps and across parking lots. I couldn't stay on this alleyway, it exited straight out onto a road, so it was time for some more precise driving, in between some houses, across more backyards, and through fences. I could then just drive straight across the road and into another alleyway, passing some tennis courts. After driving across more parking lots, I found myself at a gas station, and just beyond it was the golf course. I'd made it through the town without any problems, and we can continue on with our journey. This felt like a nice warm-up for Honolulu, which will come later, but first we got a lot more farm to cover. The golf course was nice and flat. I could simply plough through, just as long as I avoided any trees or golf carts that were lying around. I was soon back on the brown stuff. This dirt track headed directly south, so I decided to stay on it for a bit. As the old saying goes, all brown things must come to... Wait, what? All brown things? Ah, screw it, I'm leaving it in. All brown things must come to an end. The track veered off to the east, but I needed to keep heading south, which meant cutting through these fields. It felt like it was reaching the middle of the day, and I was making good progress. I decided to take a more direct route and beeline it for a bit. To make sure I'm heading in the right direction, the next landmark I need to head towards is the wind turbines. I know there is a dirt track that'll take me straight to there. Perhaps this is it. I followed the track for a bit, but then realised it was actually heading off in the wrong direction. I needed to make a slight course adjustment and head east for a bit to try and find the dirt track I needed. On passing through this field, I passed some cow eggs. I know they're not cow eggs, I just call them cow eggs. They're clearly hay bales wrapped in black plastic to help them dry quicker and help them retain their leaves. I heard a story that someone genuinely believed that these were cow eggs, and that the cow's black markings were a result of hatching out of these big black eggs. So now I just call them cow eggs. Anyway, I've gone off on a rather dumb tangent. Where are we? Oh yes, I'm at a gas station. Okay, I'm still looking for that track. It's got to be just on the other side of this palm plantation. Right, here we are. Here's the track. There's the turbines. Nice. I'm flying along now. I just need to make a tight left up ahead, drive through the wind farm, and I'll be well on my way to Honolulu. It was time to leave the track behind and head through a farm. Although you can't see it, Honolulu is just on the other side of these trees, so I decided to beeline it for a bit, passing through these fields. There is a gap in the trees here. If I keep heading south, I'll reach the highway. My plan is to drive underneath that for a bit and find a way into Honolulu. I'm so glad this map only takes place on one island. In my previous two challenges, I had to do water crossings, which meant getting the vehicles into the back of boats, and that was a real pain in the ass. Watch Dogs 2 especially almost broke me. Both those videos are definitely worth a watch. Anyway, back on with the show. So here's the highway. I can drive underneath it, through the pillars, and it should give me a clear run into Honolulu. That's so fun to say. Honolulu. 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 Now I've said it too much now, I've spoiled it. All was going well. This seemed like a good tactic. I could really put my foot down as the highway straightened out. I was starting to pass buildings as I was slowly entering the city. I crossed the main road and continued to follow the highway. It looked like this was going to be easy, and I may not actually have to drive into Honolulu at all. But then things took a turn, and I plummeted down a canyon into a river. Well, that was a bit of a mess up. I stopped and composed myself for a bit, see if I can find a way out. There's no obvious way out behind me, so I have to drive forward. Luckily, it's another shallow river, so I can simply wade through. With the steep cliff faces either side, it really put me in a tough position. I have no choice but to follow the river until I can find a way out. This area really is going to help my time limit, as it's now the afternoon. Finally, I see a slope, and the microbus can crawl out of this canyon. Right, where the hell am I? It looks like I'm in the middle of a jungle. Luckily, I'm not lost in the middle of nowhere. We're on the edge of a suburb. Right, let's stop again. I need to think of a plan here. I'm currently here, just on the outskirts of Honolulu. We've come a long way, about 2/3, but the last third is going to be tricky. That said, I'm really glad we've got to visit Honolulu. This place has been designed as the ultimate urban playground. There's lots of jumps and cool places to drive, so navigating through it should be a lot of fun. Let's see how I get on. First I had to drive through the suburbs. Yet again there are nice wide open spaces in between the houses. Driving through all the gardens is pretty simple. The freeway is just in front of me again, but I'm not going to follow it this time, as it passes over many buildings, so I won't be able to drive directly underneath it. Instead, I make my way between the shops and apartments that lie ahead. Luckily for me, there's lots of green spaces and pedestrian paths, despite the absence of actual pedestrians. Well, at least I'm not going to run over anyone, I guess. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I'll let you decide. I head up a flight of stairs. In front of me is a parking lot, and beyond that is the State Capitol building. This will be the first stop on our brief tour of Honolulu. As I enter the Capitol's plaza, I notice a loot box in the corner. Have I got time to grab it? Ah, go on. I'm saving up to get a Lamborghini Miura, so every little helps. Right, okay, come on, no more distractions. Still got a challenge to complete here. I head straight through the Capitol building and out the other side, where I find a nice large park to drive through. Ahead of me is a historic looking building, which is our next landmark. This is the Alani Hale. Did you know that this building is located in downtown Honolulu, Hawaii? Currently used as the home of the Hawaii State Supreme Court. It's the former seat of government of the Kingdom of Hawaii. I didn't know that either, I'm just reading the Wikipedia page. Either way, I drive through the aioli. Wait, that's garlic mayonnaise. I drive through that building that began with an A, whatever it was called, and carry on. I'm now deep in downtown. I felt like the camper was having too much an easy ride on all this tarmac, so it was time to have a quick dip back in the mud and drive through a construction site. But there's still plenty of open spaces to drive through. This is definitely the easiest urban area I've had to drive through in this series so far. I drive down another pedestrian walk and head towards the Moana Center, a large shopping mall right in the center of downtown. Any rep of the Disney character? Okay, that's definitely not true. I'm sure it's to do with some deep Polynesian lore or something, or fairy tale. I don't really know. I head upstairs and then do a tricky 180 hairpin. And then up another flight of stairs and find myself on the roof. Did I have to come up here? Absolutely not. There are lots of cool jumps up here, and I'm a very simple man. There are jumps to be had. You know I'm going to do them. Yeah, I'm going to have to indulge in a bit of emergency nitro again, though. Well, this is all great fun. Plus we get a very nice view of the city from up here. I'm now heading east, running parallel to the coast. I'll keep heading this direction now to find my way out of the city. First I need to jump off this roof and cross over a river. When I reach ground level, I'm overtaken by a group of motocross bikes taking part in a race. I've completed most of the racing playlists in this game, and I have to say I am enjoying it. There is such a huge amount of variety in the vehicles you can drive. Supercars, off-roaders, bikes, planes, boats, it's all here, and I haven't found myself getting bored yet. Anyway, back to my own playlist of one. I've gone off on a tangent again. I drove past the Waikiki Wing Hotel, drop down a couple of terraces, and make a sharp left. I passed the marina and up a small ramp. And now I'm on the famous Waikiki beach. I then go on another rampage, destroying invisible sunbathers' stuff, before reaching the promenade, and I can really put my foot down. At this point I noticed my van shadow is looking pretty long, so the day is definitely slipping away from us. I need to get out of the city and start heading towards the finishing line, to try and outrun the sun. I can't go completely mad though, I need to have some control. I almost get it straight into a swimming pool. I now need to come away from the coastline. I can't simply follow it around to the lighthouse. It would take too long, and the Diamond Head crater kind of sits in the way, so I had to start heading north back inland again. I follow yet more pedestrian paths, and I found myself driving past the St. Augustine by the Sea Catholic Church. This is a parish of the Roman Catholic Church of Hawaii, the United States. It falls under the jurisdiction of the Diocese of Honolulu, and its bishop... Yeah, I'm reading Wikipedia again, sorry. Where was I? I find another mall to drive through, but then have a little bit more fun, driving up a ramp, across a plaza, and then down on the other side again. Ahead of me sits another large public park. Right in the centre is the Waikiki Shell, an outdoor music venue, and we're driving straight through the middle of it. Okay, so now we're definitely well out of downtown. We've just got another suburb to get through, and then we'll be out of Honolulu. There's also a canal we need to cross, but that isn't too difficult. Someone conveniently put some stairs here for me to get in and out. Okay, now I need to just get through the suburb. This part gives me big hot buzz energy, as I smash through all the garden fences. This all feels a bit reckless and uncontrolled. I feel like I need to find a more suitable path than just smashing between suburban houses. Luckily for me, in between these houses there are some alleys. Well, I guess they're kind of roads, but traffic doesn't spawn on them, so I'm allowed to use them. Feels like a bit of a loophole, but hey, it's fine. Right, now I've regained some sort of control, I know where I'm heading. I need to think about how I'm going to finish this challenge. So back to the map. I kind of find myself with limited options here. Yet again, I'm stuck in between cliffs, with the Diamond Head crater to the south of me, and more mountains directly north. The way I see it, I have two options. I could off-road it down the valley, make my way around the bay towards the Hanamauma racetrack, then drive around the circuits before following the coast again. Or I could head straight through the Motorfest grounds, then out the other side and off-roading it for a bit. This felt like the more direct route, and with sunlight fading, I decided to go for it. But first, I need to get out of this suburb. I smashed through some roadworks. Hey, maybe that's why these streets are so empty, they're all closed for maintenance. I then cut through some front yards to avoid the deadly tarmac just to the right of me. I'm now on the track that takes me into the Motorfest grounds. We'll probably start to see lots of ghosts of other players driving around here. So, here we are, the Horizon Festival, I mean Motorfest, yes, Motorfest. Okay, so maybe this game feels a bit like a rip-off of a Forza Horizon game. That's fine by me, as the owner of a PlayStation rather than an Xbox. I think the Forza Horizon series is the one exclusive I'm truly gutted I can't play. Sure, Halo, Gears of War, Starfield, I'm missing out on all those as well. But I do love me an open world racer, as you can tell. But hey, I've made my choice, and I can't wait for Spider-Man 2 to come out. Ahead of me sits the signature double loop. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through fuck it, let's do it. If I can't resist the simple jump, you know I'm not going to be able to resist the double loop. Time for the old trusty emergency nitro. Holy crap, it did it! Oh my god, I wasn't expecting that. That definitely made my stomach feel weird though. Can we go for the second? Yeah, it's doing it. Oh dear, oh god. Whoa, well, that kind of made it. I feel like the driver would have a concussion, but they've made it, and the van's still good to go. Right, anyway. The sky has definitely got an orange hue, so we need to get it moved on here. I need to find a way out of here, so I head down here in between these stalls and marquees. I take a sharp turn and head along this road, but it loops back round into the festival grounds again, so it's time for some proper off-roading. I know I was reluctant to beeline it at the start of this journey, but now it's my only choice. It is definitely sunset now, and my time is rapidly running out. Time to get desperate. I had to be careful, weaving between the trees. There's a lot of rough terrain around this area, so I decided my best bet would be to head towards flat ground. I know the terrain is pretty flat around the Hanau racetrack, which is where I was heading towards, but there was a small obstacle between me and there. There was another river sitting in a canyon, much like the one I fell into before. I couldn't afford to waste any more time by falling in there and trying to find a way back out again, and trying to find a way round it would take too long. There was only really one way across, and it was a pretty ridiculous one. On a scale from The Fast and the Furious to Fast X, I'd probably give it a Fate of the Furious. Well, here it goes. This doesn't seem like it's going to work, but it's worth a try. Definitely time for a bit of boost, and... oh my god, that actually worked. I'm just as surprised as you are. That is so ridiculous. Anyway, I'm now at the Hanau racetrack, but I definitely don't have time for a quick circuit. Instead, I'm just going to drive through the crowd area and make my way towards the beach. As I jump down onto the beach, you can see that the sun is getting real low. We're in the endgame now. I am Iron Man. I'm really gonna have to get a move on. The lighthouse is gonna light up any minute now, but there's still one more problem I'm gonna have to figure out. The lighthouse sits on top of a cliff, which is only accessible via a small path, and to reach this path, I need to go on some dirt roads. But the entrance to these dirt roads are way up north, and the Cocoa Crater sits right in the way. It feels like I don't have time to go around it, so perhaps there's a way through it? Desperate times call for desperate measures. I head down this dirt track, and then up a flight of stairs. And beyond that flight of stairs is one hell of a flight of stairs. I really don't know what this is supposed to be. It feels like it could be part of an old cable car or something. There's no way my VW will be able to scale this mountain on the mud. But maybe, just maybe, this tarmac will give it a fighting chance. God, this is so slow and painful. Maybe this was the wrong choice. It probably would have been quicker to go round. It's only going to get steeper. Come on, come on, come on, you can do it. Just a little further. I feel like all was lost. I was losing traction, my wheels were spinning, but then, emergency nitro to the rescue. Just a little further, you can make it. One last push. Phew. Right. It's getting proper dark now. I need to get down this hill as quickly as possible. I was going to have to follow the ridge around the crater. This is definitely the most non-roady this non-road challenge has been so far. This was insane. I was barely keeping control as my bus hurtled down this ridge. Sheer rock faces either side. This truly was a very dramatic last leg. Well, somehow I'd survived. I made it to the bottom of the slope. This is the dirt road I mentioned before. I just need to follow it for a tiny bit. The pathway to the lighthouse is around here somewhere. Ah yes, there it is. Come on, we can do this. Right, okay, I'm pretty sure it's up here. Just around this corner and... oh bollocks, this is the wrong way. It's definitely not what I needed right now. All I could do was turn around and head back. Okay, I'm definitely on the right track. This has to be the one. This has to lead me to the lighthouse. I'll put my foot down as hard as I dare. This path was very thin. I could easily slide off into the forest. Come on, where is it? Where's the lighthouse? Is it lit up? It's got to be around here somewhere. Why is this path taking so long? Come on, where is it? Oh my god, there it is. It's not lit up. Come on, I'm so close. Yes, I've done it. Finally, after a long slog, I'd finally done it, and so had the bus. I couldn't be more happier for it. You can keep your Lambos, your Ferraris, your off-road buggies. This camper is where it's at. I made it with about 20 seconds to spare, as the lighthouse soon lit up just after my arrival. I probably could have made it here a lot quicker. The route I ended up taking wasn't the most efficient, but who cares, I had fun. With the challenge complete, there was only one thing left to do to celebrate. Double loop-the-loops in a Lamborghini! Woo! Thanks for watching this one. I've been Foolish Pedro, and I had a great time making this one. At the end of my last video, I said I was doing GTA 5. That was only because I kind of forgot this game was coming out. So the next video probably will be GTA 5, unless there's any more open world games coming out soon that I've forgotten about. But anyway, thanks for watching this far, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.